Hello and welcome to Pest in Class, expert voices in pest management. Today we spoke with Ashley Morrison, the president of City Wide Exterminating in North Carolina. We discussed the world of family businesses and how to create boundaries that are crucial for achieving a healthy work-life balance. We also explore the importance of building connections within the industry to help your business thrive. I'm your host, Amanda Sopswer. Let's get into it. Ashley Morrison, you are the president of City Wide Exterminating in North Carolina, and today we will be discussing how to create a work-life balance in a family business and creating connections in the industry. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to do this.
Oh, I'm excited to get into it. I think you have a story that many of our listeners are going to relate to and learn from. So let's get into it. First and foremost, we always start with an icebreaker here on Pest in Class. So if you could meet any historical figure, who would it be and why?
All right. So I am going to say a historical figure that I would like to meet or hang out with would be Amelia Earhart. I think I've always been inspired by her tenacity. She seems like she was bold for her time. She was an explorer, and I feel like so much of that resonates with me, or even some of what I wish I could be, or that I had a little bit more of what she had. Actually, I have a daughter also that I chose to name Amelia. I've always looked at her life, and I always thought, she made some strides for females. She made strides in aviation, and I have always thought that she's somebody that I would enjoy meeting.
I agree. I think that's an excellent choice. My father is a pilot, and I've always been interested in the idea of aviation. And I mean, she's the ultimate when it comes to that. So I would agree with you. I would definitely hang out with the two of you. Excellent choice. But and I know that this podcast is not about aviation, but we are going to be talking a lot about leadership today. So I would love to know how you found yourself in pest control.
It's a family thing. So my dad actually worked in the industry for probably about 20, 25 years before he started his own company. I've always grown up around it. We, at the time, weren't really involved in associations or just really didn't have time. As an owner-operator, he was eating, sleeping, and breathing, getting the job done. So with that, my mother ultimately joined my dad in the business. And then, my brother followed suit. My now husband followed suit. I think they were both employed before I was at the company. But really, it's always kind of been in our family. So my parents started the company back in 2000, and I grew up around it, but I wasn't really fond of the thoughts of coming into the family business. It seemed to be all-encompassing, all-consuming as you're building a business. And as a teenager, as a kid, I didn't think I wanted that for my life. So ultimately, though, they did well. They were growing organically, and they were running the business out of their house at the time. So they were at a crossroads of trying to figure out, okay, who do we bring in? We need someone to come help us on the admin side. Who do we bring in without making this awkward, since we're running it out of an extra bedroom in our home? We had some long talks. I was actually not interested in it at first. I went into nonprofit development for a little while after college, but ultimately, after some long conversations and some boundary setting, I joined the family business, and I have never once looked back since that day.
I have to ask, what were those conversations like when you decided to join the family business? What were some things that you may have set up to create a positive work environment with each other?
Great question. So, and I have children of my own, so I can say this from a parent perspective. I did not want to be looked at as just a kid being handed everything coming into this business. I wanted to be treated fairly. I wanted them to hold me accountable for doing a good job. And I wanted to know what the expectations were out of myself. On the flip side, I also wanted to set boundaries with them as my parents that I know there's a lot of after hours work talk. So some of the conversations that we had were around roles and responsibilities, kind of KPIs. How are we going to know if this is working well for us? It was also what hours are we going to discuss these things? How do we figure out how to cut things off and be a family and not coworkers again? So we had a lot of things to figure out before we went down that path.
Do you think, because I know people who are listening right now are probably in a very similar situation. And I think that each family is very unique and different. But what do you think was the boundary that you set that really set up a positive foundation?
So the number one boundary that we came up with, or that I think benefited us the most, is roles and responsibilities. That way we knew which lane to stay in. And we got really good at it after time, but it took work to figure out who was responsible for what. And I think so often you have a lot of zigzagging, a lot of lanes that cross when you don't have those clear expectations defined. So where I'm responsible for X at the time, and then I knew my mother was responsible for Y because it was only the two of us in the office, then there was no question if something didn't get done. We knew who owned that responsibility and who either did it or didn't do it. And so I think with having years and years of that practice and just sitting down and talking about these things very openly before we got too far down this path, that's what laid the groundwork for us to be able to work well together. And we see that now to this day, even running a business with my brother and my husband. Well, that can get a little messy if you don't know who's responsible for what.
Yeah, it sounds like open communication really is key for this relationship.
For sure. Because I think, as with everything, I'm a huge proponent for communication anyway, because you can avoid a lot of disasters if you just openly communicate. And I think, thankfully, we worked on it, and we worked to add it some more to figure out who belonged where. And we took things and we capitalized on our strengths, where I'm not good at something else, but, Chris, my brother, or Dylan, my husband, is phenomenal at it. And so we have resigned and accepted our weaknesses, and we have decided to let somebody else pick that up. Let somebody else help us through, where we may not excel.
Yeah, I think realizing people's strengths and leaning into those is always an opportunity for success within a business. And it's a team. It sounds like a team. I would love to pivot to when you first started with Citywide. You were doing a CSR role and really building these foundational processes that, have shaped the company. So can you tell me a little bit about that growth?
Yes. So when I first joined Citywide, I want to say it was back in 2010. So it's been a little while. I was the person that when you call the company, I am the one that you spoke with. So I did everything from answering customer calls, scheduling existing customers, routing them, responsible for annual renewals, anything that is in the office as far as the CSR would handle, that was me. And honestly, I really got to start from ground zero with that. So back then, everything that they did was on Excel files and index cards. I got to explore how to modernize what we did, which software we wanted to transition to, how we wanted to have better customer management. We were attempting at the time to manage our customer accounts in an accounting software all in one. And almost immediately I saw the limitations to that. And so we kind of limped through that a little bit. We got through it and ultimately kind of figured out, okay, this is not scalable. This is not good long term. So a lot of what I did was not only the day-to-day stuff of serving our customers, but also trying to figure out, okay, how can we do this better? And so it just took patience, and it took a lot of work and a lot of time, but I think it gives me a good insight into what our own CSRs might be experiencing these days, because I have done it. I have lived it, and I understand the frustrations, and I understand even the good parts of the job.
Yeah, you have a different perspective because you were able to do that job. And really now, as president, I'm sure that you're able to really speak to anything that the CSRs are dealing with and being able to really understand how you can help them out.
Yes. Take, for instance, I know I just talked to you about this when we first came on the call. One of the pain points that we are dealing with right now is just even our internet provider. And so, as a CSR and understanding what it's like being in that seat of trying to serve your customer as quickly and as best you can, that is the little things that you have got to have corrected. And so, when it became a constant issue, I knew it was time. Okay, like this cannot be one of their pain points. This is too easy to solve. So we've got a solution coming in. It's really understanding, I guess, all the things that have to work together to make their job as good as it can be, and they can be as successful as they can.
I want to talk a little bit about your experience using index cards and Excel spreadsheets and that transition into software. I know that you are using FieldRoutes. Can you give us a little bit about your journey with the software?
We used another software for a little while, for several years. That was our first step into the modern world of a CRM. And it was good, but we transitioned to FieldRoutes we started the process in 2019, actually on maternity leave after my third child. We did the implementation and the onboarding, which I spearheaded from home. And we ran both softwares consistently and concurrently for about maybe 5 or 6 months, just to make sure that my team was comfortable. Since I had been on mom duty also, I wanted to make sure that I wasn't pushing them into something before they were ready for it. So we ran them concurrently for a little while. When we decided we were ready, we went live. And then a week later, the world shut down from a little pandemic that we experienced. So now
Don't know if you heard of it.
Exactly. So now I've been doing this onboarding at home with a new baby, and then we get ready to roll it out live. And now all of my CSRs are displaced working from home, trying to figure out a new software also. But thankfully, we had been running them concurrently long enough where everyone felt pretty comfortable about it. So that's our transition to FieldRoutes story. But we figured it out, and it's been really good. And I think having the concurrent softwares running together for a little while, just to make sure that they were ready to go, is what really set us up for success.
Would you have any advice for somebody who's considering transitioning to FieldRoutes when onboarding the system, other than running them simultaneously?
Don't do it in the middle of busy season, and don't do it at the start of a pandemic.
If you can avoid it.
Yeah, exactly. If you can avoid it. No, but my biggest piece of advice is make sure your team is comfortable and that they're ready, because they're the frontline users of it. And if there's any doubt or any question still on how to do basic functions and how to make the software work how you want it to, if they're uncomfortable, it's going to show, and it's going to be a much harder buy-in from your team. So don't rush it. Take time. Make sure that everyone is comfortable and they're ready to go with it.
I love that. I think that's excellent advice. You were just talking about your employees, and I know that when we have previously spoken, we talked about company culture, and family time is incredibly important to what you have set up in your culture. So how has FieldRoutes improved efficiency to help employees get home sooner?
So one of the biggest changes that we made this year is really diving into looking at our route optimization and looking at how we are routing. So really in years past, we've kind of always started from the furthest point and work them back towards their home, so they're ending closer. And so we actually this year implemented loop routing to where we are they're not far from their homes in the morning, so they're not dealing with a ton of traffic trying to get to the furthest point, and they're ending their day close to home. So that way, some of the traffic dies down. They can be as quick and efficient on their routes as they can and get back home. I think that's probably one of the biggest changes that we've made, that we have utilized the software to help us with as well.
I love this idea. I've never really thought about your start point and that morning traffic, getting there on time, which really is going to be setting you up for success for the rest of the day and keeping you on track for your route.
Yeah. So we decided if you are sitting in traffic for half an hour when you could be knocking out a service that's closer, and maybe this is common sense for a lot of people, but it took us a little while to figure it out. But we decided that if you're sitting in traffic for 30 minutes trying just to get to your first stop, or you're having to leave an hour earlier so you can beat the traffic to get to that stop, we decided, why are we doing this? There's got to be a better way. And so obviously there's other people who are doing it already. So they were a big help when it came to figuring out, is this the route that we want to take? But ultimately, they don't have to leave as early. They're not sitting there unproductive. It's a win-win for everyone involved.
Incredible. Are there any other features that you think have helped take your business to the next level?
I think there's a lot. So when we switched to FieldRoutes, one of the number one selling points for us was just the ease of use. It's so user friendly. It's intuitive. It doesn't take long to onboard either a new CSR or someone in the office, and also the field staff. So it's super simple for them to use. There are so many. I think one of the other ones that we started using this year that rolled out was the On My Way text, which is so nice because it saves our field staff a phone call. It saves them from having to pick up the phone, talk to Miss Jones on the way there. We're able to send it. And honestly, it just looks modern, and it's really just the push of a button. So there's several features that we really like that I think have just helped elevate our overall brand and appearance.
I love that. I want to pivot now to talking about relationships and connections. I know this is something that you're very passionate about. Can you tell us about your experience with the NPMA leadership program and how it impacted both your personal and business growth?
So I think it was the end of 2016, NPMA announced this brand new executive leadership program. And I was looking at it, and I decided to apply. I did not tell anyone that I applied. I just decided I was going to throw my hat in the ring. So I was accepted into the first class. Myself and 9 other people were in the first class in 2017 through 2019. Honestly, it was one of the biggest and best career decisions that I could have made for myself. At the time, we were kind of getting more involved at our state level and national level association. And it was kind of just, okay, I think I'm going to try it. So I was accepted into it. And honestly, it changed the trajectory of my career, who I am as a professional, who I am as a person. And it's just been a phenomenal experience. And it's not just the curriculum or all of the things that are planned in this program that you benefit from. But I met 9 of the most amazing humans in our industry. And there's just been so many offshoots of relationships that have formed out of just these 9. And it was a phenomenal experience for me, not only just the classmates, but all of the industry events that I got just projected into headfirst. I was in rooms where I met people that I probably wouldn't have met. My best friend actually came out of my leadership class. She and I were the only 2 females in the class. So naturally, we just kind of started talking before the class even started. And just got to know each other, and she's one of my best friends to this day. We text every single day. We're always talking about personal issues, work things that we need to troubleshoot. It's really been an amazing experience. Another person out of that class ended up consulting and mentoring my now sales manager. There's just a lot to be discovered when you connect with other people in this industry.
It seems like you had a lot of discovery while being a part of this program. You're meeting new people, you're in the room where it's happening. What was that like, being a part of this program and really getting the opportunity to shape how things are?
So, my introverted side is, sending up all kinds of red flags. What are you doing? This is not our comfort zone. But honestly, it was phenomenal because I was doing it with 9 other people as a part of this program. We kind of had each other to lean on also, which was a little less scary. But it pushed me outside of my own little comfort space. And it encouraged me to do more and think bigger. And so part of the program, I had a phenomenal mentor who was voluntold that he had to mentor me. But it was one of the most valuable and meaningful connections that I could have ever made. I was paired up with Dennis Jenkins of ABC DFW. And that is somebody who I don't know that I would have crossed paths with otherwise. And he was so gracious and so generous with his time in the time that we were paired up together. I think he moved our calls from once a month to every other week, where he would go over, what's going on with you? What do you need my help with? What do you want to troubleshoot? What do you want to talk about? And it was more than just, the assignment. It was more than just, here's what we want you to talk about with your mentees. He really, honestly, he poured into me and he challenged my thinking. There were so many changes that we made because of some of the suggestions and some of the troubleshooting that he sat down and gave me so much time on. So I had to be better about being brutally honest about what was going on also. Part of running a business is you've got to keep some things close to the shoulder, close to your chest. And I had to learn that it was okay to show weakness. I had to learn that it was okay to solicit feedback. And honestly, that's the only way that you're going to improve, is when you actually you tackle your challenges head on.
Yeah, I very often challenges are seen as a negative, that if you were very good at your job, you wouldn't have this challenge. But in fact, and no matter how good you are, no matter how perfect you're trying to execute everything, there's going to be challenges regardless. So having the wherewithal to admit when something is going awry or feels out of control, that is how you're going to be able to actually solve that issue. And I think that's an incredible lesson to learn. Do you have any other lessons that you learned from your mentor that you take with you?
I will say, going back to something that I touched on earlier, is get out of your comfort zone. You're never going to make progress if you're always comfortable. And change can be a little uncomfortable. Growth can be uncomfortable. But I think if you're always willing to learn and you're pushing yourself for more and you're pushing yourself to do more, there are positive benefits, there are positive rewards on the other side.
Well said. Well said. I know your family and you have been active on various boards. And I love this because I know you said that you're an introvert. So you're really stretching yourself and you're really putting yourself out there. How has this involvement really shaped your perspective on the industry?
I think being involved in so many different facets of what our industry does has really opened my eyes to all the backstage things that happen, that go on. You see things on the surface, but you might not know all of the public policy stuff that's happened on the back end that allow you to be in the space and in the position that you're in now with your business. And I think being involved in so many things going on, nationally, on the state level, on, the wildlife side of things, we all have a hand in something. So we've got an ear to the ground on things that are going on. But going back to, also the people that are involved, you're always going to meet people who have either experienced something that you're going through or that they're willing to share something that they've experienced with you. And I think just getting involved in so many different facets opens a whole new world. You're not on this island doing this by yourself. There are always people who are willing to come alongside. They're willing to help you. They're willing to share experiences with you. And I think that's something that you have to be open to. And you really only get that when you jump in and you get involved.
I have to ask you, what drives you to seek these sorts of roles?
So this industry has been really good to my family. And we were the newcomers. We didn't know people. We didn't know anybody. I didn't grow up around all of the other family or multi-generational, companies that make up a lot of our industry. And so I was the new person, and people welcomed me with open arms. And while it seemed scary at first, this industry is not scary. This industry is made up of phenomenal people. And so I had this great experience because of the people that were so good to us and so generous to us, that I feel like it's part of our duty that we give back when we became more involved and when we were in a position to give back. And so I feel like it is our duty to stay involved. It's our duty to make sure that other people know how to get involved and that they're comfortable in doing so, and that they see a path in why their voice matters in our associations also.
I love that. I do. I love that so much. Putting yourself out there and really taking the opportunity to be a part of a community and create community. And you're doing that beautifully. You should be really proud.
Thank you.
Of course. Ashley Morrison, I want to thank you once again for coming on to Pest in Class. This is a really great conversation. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. It's been fun. You made this really easy and enjoyable, so I appreciate it.